Hello students, good morning. This is Akash Kotawar, Faculty of Biology. Now we are continuing the chapter Reproduction in Organism Part 2. As we already discussed about the introduction about this chapter, and we have started the asexual reproduction topic. And now in asexual reproduction topic, we have discussed the different six types of names, that is fission, budding, fragmentation, regeneration, spore formation and vegetative propagation. We have already discussed about all the different kinds of asexual reproductions with their respective examples except vegetative propagation. So we have completed all the asexual reproduction topics. Now today we are begin with this class with vegetative propagation. Now what exactly the vegetative propagation? Students, the vegetative propagation refers the production of new plants from the vegetative parts like roots, stems, leaves is called vegetative propagation. That means in the parent plant body, the new plant will develop either from root or stem or leaves. That kind of reproduction is called vegetative reproduction, as the roots, stems and leaves are considered as vegetative parts of the plant body, as we already discussed in the 5th chapter of the first 11th standard in the morphology of flowering plants. Now the parts which helps to develop the new plant body are known as vegetative propagules. That means if in any plant, if the root is helps to develop new plant, that root part is called vegetative propagule. Now here some examples are there. In different plants, different parts, different vegetative parts helps in this vegetative propagation, and they are recognized as different names. Like here given tubers, rhizomes, bulbs, buds, runners, suckers, stolons, offsets. Please remind all these terms, these are very important for your examination. These are the different names of vegetative propagules which helps to produce new plants from their vegetative parts. Now we'll go through the a table here, the examples of vegetative propagation. Now whatever the examples are given here are considered as natural methods. Like in first section, the roots are there. The roots act as a vegetative propagule in which the roots are helps to develop new plant body. Like the examples are there: dahlia, asparagus, dalbergia. So these are the examples of roots in which from roots the new plants are developed. Now in stem, now the stem is very important aspect in case of vegetative propagation, as different in different plants the stem act as a vegetative propagule with different names. Now here there are so many examples are given, like tubers. The tubers act as a vegetative propagule in potato, the bulbs in garlic and onion, in rhizome, ginger, turmeric, banana, Corms, Colocasia and Amorphophallus, suckers, mint and chrysanthemum, runners, oxalis and centella, stolons, jasmine, and offsets, pistia and iconia. Now the pistia and iconia are aquatic plants. They float on the water surface, and with the help of offsets they float. Now offsets which are developed in plants, in these plants, are of the stem. Now these are different vegetative propagules developed from the plants in different plant bodies or different species, we can say. In case of leaves, now here bryophyllum, begnonia, calunque and walking fern. These are different examples in which the leaves act as a vegetative propagule. we already discussed about these example like a bryophyllum. We already discussed about the bryophyllum in 10th standard. A bryophyllum leaf, on the leaf edges a small buds are developed, on which the buds develops roots which come into contact with the soil and detach from the parent leaf and develops as a new plant body. So this is called leaf buds. So in bryophyllum leaf, the leaf buds are developed on the leaf edges. So these are the plants in which leaves act as a vegetative propagules. Now in one more thing, bulbils. In agave, lily, and dioscorea, these are the specialized plants in which bulbils. These are the special kinds of structures develops on the plant body, which helps to develop a new plant body. So these are the different examples of vegetative propagation, which considered as a natural methods, means without any artificial conditions, they naturally grow. Now here are some of artificial vegetative propagations are also examples are there. Now before that, if we go through these different diagrams, the first is a runner oxalis example. Now between two plants there is a the horizontal stem is there. On horizontal stem from each every node the adventitious roots are developed, and above that the new leaves are developed. So this is a runner, means the stem run horizontally on the surface of earth or the soil. Rhizome, it's a ginger. Tuber, it's a potato. On potato the buds are there which helps to produce new leaves. In offset pistia, aquatic plant, birds of bryophyllum leaf, bulb, it's an onion, and agave bulbil. So these are the different examples of natural vegetative propagables. Okay, students. Now here are some examples of artificial vegetative propagation. These are mainly three types. The fourth one is different from these three. The first is cutting, layering, grafting, and turians. Now, what is cutting actually? The cutting takes place in sugarcane, rose, and bougainvillea. Cutting means a part of plant branch cut obliquely and that can planted in the soil. It can develops roots and grow into a new plant. It's a common thing we commonly used in our homes also. The layering occurs in strawberry, jasmine, and grapevine. Now what layering actually? In layering, without cutting a plant body or any part of the plant body, we just induce the development of roots on any branch by spraying artificial auxins and gibberellins, so that once the roots are developed on the branch we cut that and plant into the soil. So this kind of artificial vegetative propagation called as layering. The grafting, it is mostly done in the citrus family and apple, pine, and plum. Now what is grafting? Grafting means two different plants having two different structures like stalk and scion. Stalk is a basic structure we cut obliquely, and scion is the one more part of another plant which joined together, and then these two structures combinedly developed as a single plant. It is called grafting. We already know and we already discussed, I think, in the 10th standard. Then the last one is turians. It is normally takes place in fleshy birds in aquatic plants. Example Potamogeton and Utricularia. So these are the some of the artificial vegetative propagations. So here these are the natural roots, stem, leaves, and bulbils. In stem, there are different types are there: tubers, bulbs, rhizomes, combs, suckers, runners, stolons, and offset. Now, students, this is about the asexual reproductions in the animals, as well both as well as in animals and plants. We have discussed fission, budding, spore formation, vegetative propagation. Okay, and sorry, excuse me, what we have discussed: fission, budding, fragmentation, spore formation, vegetative propagation. Now let us start. Here's some special information. Now, vegetative propagation by roots, how does it occur? Now, the roots of some woody plants produce shoots which grow into a new plant, like murraya. Modified tuber roots of sweet potato, asparagus, dahlia, tapioca, tinospora, etc. develops buds, and each of which form a new plant. It's a information already we have discussed. By leaves in bryophyllum and begonia, same thing. Now it's a one more important point is there which I regularly ask you in an examination. Here it is, terror of Bengal. Now what is terror of Bengal? It is a common name of an aquatic plant called water hyacinth. Its scientific name is Eichhornia. It is an aquatic plant. It is considered as a terror of Bengal. It was first introduced in India because of the beautiful flower and shape of leaf. It propagates very quickly by vegetative mode and drain out dissolved oxygen from water bodies. That means it increase the BOD. It increase the BOD strength. Now what is BOD? Biological oxygen demand means the demand of the oxygen is increased in the aquatic bodies due to the expansion of these aquatic plants. It continuously produces its next generation by vegetative mode rapidly so that it occupies whole the water body so that remaining all other animals and plants will face the deficiency of the oxygen. That is called biological oxygen demand, BOD. So it most important to helps the biological oxygen demand in the aquatic bodies. It is called terror of Bengal. It was introduced in India because of its beautiful flowers and the shape of leaves. It is most important question as per your board examination. Out of 3 times, 1 time it compulsory comes in your board examination. Now, so this is about the asexual reproduction. Now, students, we'll start with the sexual reproduction. Now, what is sexual reproduction? Now, the sexual reproduction involves the fusion of male and female gametes by the process of fertilization. It results in offsprings that are not identical to the parents or not or to themselves. Means they are completely different from each other and from also their parents. When a male and female gametes are produced from a male and female parents respectively, then it is called unisexual reproduction. For example, man, cow, all mammals. When both male and female gametes are produced from a single individual, then it is called bisexual reproduction. Earthworm. We'll discuss about this in detail in later, right? So what is sexual reproduction? It involves basically the both parent, that is male and female. And we already discussed about the differences between sexual and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, gametogenesis occurs by the using meiosis, that is gamete formation. Then fertilization takes place. Then zygote formation takes place. Then the embryogenesis, development of fetus, everything. So there are different types of events takes place in sexual reproduction. We'll discuss later in detail. Now here, now there are 3 phases in an organism's life with respect to reproduction. Now, with respect to reproduction, the whole lifespan of the every individual will classified into or divided into 3 different phases. That is called juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and old phase. The first is a juvenile phase, second is a reproductive phase, and third is a old phase. Now, what exactly is this? The first is a juvenile phase. or we can say this is called vegetative phase. In case of animals we can say juvenile phase, in case of plants we can say vegetative phase. Now all the organisms have to reach a certain phase of growth and maturity in their life before they can reproduce sexually. This growth period is known as a juvenile phase or vegetative phase. Its duration varies in different organisms. Means once the zygote forms, this zygote will develop into an embryo, then it will develop into a fetus, and it delivers as a baby. Now this baby will grow in a size, and up to puberty it will develops physically, it gets maturity, and in the puberty it starts able to produce gametes. That is called reproductive stage. Now before reproductive stage, whatever the events takes place, that is called physical growth. Now this physical growth which takes place in the whole period, that the whole period is called juvenile phase. In case of plants, the vegetative part means from the germination of seed to up to the production of flowers, the whole period is called vegetative phase. Once the flowering starts, the reproductive phase of plants will begin. So juvenile phase means it is a pre-reproductive phase. Now, the second is reproductive. When the organism starts reproducing in their life cycle, this is known as reproduction. Means in animals, like in case of humans, in puberty, the male and female starts producing their gametes. Means they attain the maturity of reproductive phase. Now they can able to reproduce. In case of plants, it starts or it begins with the production of flowers. Means the flowering is the sign of reproductive phase, beginning of the reproductive phase of a plant. The third most important is the senescent. It's called old phase. That means end of the reproductive phase. End of the reproductive phase. It is called senescent phase or old phase. After this, individual dies. That means it's end. So this is the life cycle which classify into three different phases: juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and senescent phase. In flowering plants, if you go in flowering plants, like there are three types of flowers are there: annuals, biennials, and perennials. Now annuals, which means the plants which are complete their life cycle within 1 year, very short period. Biennials in 2 years. Perennials, it is more than 2 years. So here in annuals like wheat, rice, all vegetables, etc., the life cycle is completed within 1 year. Means from the seed germination to production of seed, all the events takes place within the short period, within the 1 year. So they are called as annual plants. Biennials, in these plants the life cycle takes place in 2 years. The first year only vegetative part is there, that is seed germination and growth of the physical body of the plant, that is development of root, development of stem, development of branches, etc. In the second year they start producing flowers and they undergo sexual reproduction to produce new generation, that is seeds. So in first year vegetative part develop takes place, in second year flowering takes place. So it is called biennial plants. In third, perennial plants, it means these are mango, orange, apple. Means once they achieved reproductive phase, means after the seed germination they grow in a size. After growing in a size they start producing flowering, that is they begin with the reproductive phase, and then in every year in particular season they produce flowers, fruits, and seeds. For example, in every year in a summer season mangoes are produced. Like that, each and every perennial plant produce in a in their respective seasons a continuous production of fruits and flowers. So these are called perennial plants. So in flowering plants there are three types of plants are there: annuals, biennials, and perennials. I think we already discussed all these things in ninth standard, right? Now there are some exceptions are there. What exceptions? Now here one plant is there, Strobilanthus kuntiana. It is commonly called Neela Kurinji, in which the flowers once in a 12 years. This plant flowered during September October period in once in a 12 years. Means in every 12 years only it produce flowers. So it is a some accepted case. Second one is bamboo tree or bamboo species. That means they can produce flowers only once in their whole life cycle. That is, after that, it can die. The like bamboo species flowers only once in their lifetime, generally after 50 to 100 years. So produce large number of fruits and die. So once in a time they produce maximum number of fruits so that the next generation will continue, and that is in between 50 to 100 years. So once the germination takes place, up to 50 years there will be no flowering takes place, and after 50 years, before 100 years or 50 to 100 years, it produces large number of flowers, fruits, and then they die. So these are the some exception cases in the plants. Okay students, so this is sexual reproduction, about the sexual reproduction in plants. Now here in animals, on the basis of breeding time, the animals are classified into two types. One is called seasonal breeders and continuous breeders. Now seasonal breeders means they reproduce in particular season only. They cannot breed or reproduce whole the year. Like for example, fishes are there, lizards are there, birds are there, frogs are there. Some birds are seasonal breeders and some birds are continuous breeders, right? If you go with the frogs and fishes, normally they reproduce in the monsoon season where water is essential for this reproduction. So large number of eggs are produced by fishes and frogs in the water. So they only breed in the monsoon season. They consider as seasonal breeders. In continuous breeders, there is no particular season. The whole year, at any time, they can reproduce. Like cattle, rabbits, humans, like all the mammals. All mammals are continuous breeders. Okay, so these are the basis on the breeding time in animals. Now, one more important thing is there, placental mammals. Now, what exactly placenta? Placenta is a intermediate tissue between fetus and the mother uterus. It is the most important characteristic feature of mammals. Now the mammals are three types: egg-laying mammals and placental mammals. Now placental mammals exhibit two kinds of most important reproductive cycles. Especially the placental females of mammal exhibit cyclic changes in the activities of ovaries and accessory ducts as well as hormones during the reproductive phase. That means these are two types of cycles, are the estrous cycle and menstrual cycle. Now what exactly estrous cycle? The estrous cycle is the term for cyclic changes during the reproductive phase in non-primates. Now, what primates and non-primates? Now, here the some examples are given in the menstrual cycle, like humans, apes, monkeys, chimpanzees, gorillas, all are considered as primates, and except all these mammals, all are considered as non-primates. So, in non-primates, estrous cycle is there. That is a same reproductive cycle, but the names are different because in non-primates, whatever the cyclic changes takes place in the uterus, the same thing happens in also in primates. But in primates, after the completion of cycles, the external secretion occurs. But in case of estrous cycle, there is no external secretion occurs at the end of cycle. So hence, they are different. One is estrous cycle and one is menstrual cycle. Now, students, this is the some introduction of sexual reproduction in plants and animals. Okay, now today we have discussed the The remaining portion of the asexual reproduction, that is vegetative propagation, that is the only characteristic feature of plants. It does not takes place in the animals. And then we have discussed about the artificial vegetative propagation, and then we have started the sexual reproduction in plants. Okay, so in sexual reproduction there are different kinds of phases are there. The total lifespan divides into juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and old phase. Okay, in flowering plants there are three types of plants are there: annuals, biennials, and perennials. Some exceptions are there. These two are most important, especially about Strobila and the Skundiana Nilakurunji. It is the most important 1 mark question frequently asked in your board examination. So please note down, it is most important question. And then sexual reproduction in animals, seasonal breeders, continuous breeders. Then in placental mammals there are two types of reproductive change cycles are there: estrous cycle and menstrual cycle. So for today, we are going to stop here and we'll continue the sexual reproduction in the next class. Okay. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.